各位，在联合国、在中东、在南海，我们都习惯了美国说了算的世界。但如果有一天，美国自己开始退场了呢？新加坡前外长杨荣文在一次东南亚讲坛上的发言，就点出了这一个历史转折的核心。特朗普并不是例外，而是世界正转向多极化的产物。特朗普并没有制造混乱，他只是把既有的裂痕撕开，让我们看到了一个真实的世界。一个无法广遍全球的美国，正在重新定义自己的势力范围。他把墨西哥湾改为美洲湾，他想让加拿大成为第51个州，甚至连格陵兰岛都想纳入美国的版图。这听上去像是笑话，但逻辑极其的现实。美国既要收缩防线，重新整合北美，优先照顾自己的利益，这正是所谓美国优先的思维，不再做世界的老大，而是回到自己的领地里面筑墙。可当美国退后一步，世界的格局就开始重新起牌，因为这是多极世界的开始。中国、印度、俄罗斯正在崛起，欧洲依旧重要，非洲、拉美也在争取话语权，而美国不再是那一个随时定规则的唯一玩家。这一个转变，在军事与贸易上都能看得出来。特朗普要求北约国家拿出2%的 GDP 作为军费，却因此让他们获得了独立防务能力。他挥舞的关税的大棒，却让全球企业习惯了去美元化的新秩序。结果不是世界更听美国的话，而是世界学会了不再等美国点头。那中美之间呢？会不会爆发战争呢？杨永文给出了一个出乎意料的答案：绝对不会。中国不想打，美国也不敢打。美国在太平洋的航母都在中国高超音速导弹射程内，连关岛都太近。即使真的打起来，台积电也会被摧毁。到那时，连芯片都没得造。美国需要芯片，欧洲也需要芯片，所以他断定台海不会成为战场。更重要的是，中国已经在稀土供应上打出王牌，美国却没有有效的回应。换一句话说，这一场博弈正是从军事转向经济和资源层面，而时间正站在中国这一边。杨永文解释道，美国不再是老大哥，而只是众多兄弟里面的一员。虽然美国希望自己优先，但真正的领导者应该说我们一起前进。当美国放弃2战后建立的联合国、世贸、世卫组织体系时，一个旧的秩序正在崩塌。新的世界不是单极了，也不是双极了，而是多极了。问题是在这个多极的时代，谁能真的学会独立而不是依附呢？我们来看一下视频。
Presidency has ushered in a very volatile period in global politics and global economics. I don't think he is the cause of it. I think he is a product of a world that is entering a great transition to multipolarity, where the US accepts that it's no longer able to dominate in every region of the world, where it has got to resolve its own internal problems, concentrate on its core around North and Central America, which is one reason why he has renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and also the reason why he wants Canada to be a 51st state and to take Greenland along with it. He and his supporters feel that the US has got to reconsolidate, bring back manufacturing, get others to invest in the US, revive many industries, and minimize its commitments elsewhere. And therefore wanting NATO countries to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. Of course, once they spend 5% of the GDP on defense, they will no longer listen to everything you say because they will have their own independent capability. And on trade policies, he's doing it on the fly. He threatens, and then he says, okay, so many percentage points. But if the goods are from China, then a different tariff rate. And in this period, where uncertainty is the norm, it's like the weather forecast, that, there's going to be rain in the coming week, but you're not sure whether it's going to rain every day or it's going to rain from 3 to 5 p.m., so you better have your umbrellas ready. In such a climate, risks go up, and therefore the cost of trade financing, the cost of business goes up. And this will have an impact on the global economy. And the global economy is not in very good shape. The wealth is concentrated, so there's asset inflation. But many people in the world are not doing well. And the income inequality in many countries is generating a lot of social stresses. And these social stresses will be exploited by political leaders to effect change, and sometimes even by foreign hands. In this period, we have little influence over geopolitics, over China or America, their relations with one another. For us, Ukraine, the Middle East, these are distant conflicts. I mean, what's happening in Gaza is deeply upsetting, and it's right that we take a clear position against genocide. But these are distant problems. What we need to make sure is that within our region, we keep the peace. And if things happen, like the conflict between Thailand and Cambodia, we quickly bring the temperature down. The instinct in the entire region must be, if there are problems, whether in the South China Sea or Myanmar or the Thai-Cambodian border, that the rest of us should all be peacemakers, not troublemakers. China is rising. China is now the biggest trading partner for all of us. China faces challenges with the US. But luckily, I don't think US-China relations can get too bad. Partly because if there's a rupture with China, it's bound to affect the US economy. And it will affect Trump's midterms. I don't think there will be a war over Taiwan because China doesn't want war. But China has a red line. And the US knows where the red line is. Does the US want conflict? In Honolulu, which is the headquarters of the Indo-Pacific Command, they have war gamed this many times. And they know that if there's war over Taiwan, there's no guarantee that they will win. Because the aircraft carriers are all within the range of Chinese hypersonic missiles. And even Guam may be too near. So now they're developing Palau, further away. And even if there's war, TSMC will be destroyed. So no NVIDIA chips. And America needs NVIDIA chips. Europe needs NVIDIA chips. China can get by without NVIDIA chips. So I don't think the US will likely cross the red line. And now China has played its trump card on rare earths. And that's a chokehold because the US has no response to it. So therefore, I don't think we'll see war over Taiwan or conflict between the US and China, military conflict between the US and China for the short to medium term. What is medium term? Well, beyond 5 years. But in another 5 years, in terms of relative strength, China will be stronger than what it is today relative to the US. So it will be even harder for the US at that time to think of going to war with China, unless China becomes aggressive. Then the US may have no choice. But why should China be aggressive? It knows that time is on its side. So if in the region US-China relations are stable. Not too good, but not too bad. ASEAN and China have a good relationship, where China cannot dominate Southeast Asia because Southeast Asia will not be an enemy to China, where we will keep our balance, where we will keep good relations with America without allowing America to use us against China. So if we in Southeast Asia maintain our strategic discipline of being friendly to everybody, being neutral, so that Americans, Indians, Chinese, Japanese can all meet here, we can help to maintain the peace in the region. And while Trump may be playing around with tariffs, I think within RCEP, we should lower tariffs and so organically promote our economies. No, trade is like water. You think you can block the water, but the water finds its way around.
Is U.S. disengagement something that is going to stay, or do you think it is just a passing phase until the next administration comes in?
I think this is a historical transition into a multipolar world. The US will still be the biggest pole and the most important pole, but there'll be other poles. China will be very big. Europe will always be important. Russia will not be put down. India will grow. Latin America, Brazil, Africa will assert their own autonomy. The poles will all be interdependent, sometimes closer, sometimes further apart. So what Trump is doing by his erratic policies is almost shaking the box to facilitate, not he wanting to facilitate, but by his actions, helping the emergence of these poles on the global stage. He's fast-forwarding the future. If he were not president and somebody else, it may take another 5-10 years. But he's making it happen faster. And the fact that the US is abandoning the institutions which he helped to create after the Second World War, like the UN, like the WTO, WHO, is a sign not of strength, but of weakness. It now feels that it can no longer be generous, it can no longer play big brother. It's now one of many brothers, and it wants to calculate for its own advantage. He said the US will always be America first. Of course, we all know that, but you should never talk like that. If you're a leader, you say, I first. How can you be a leader? We all know the leader is I first, but you're a leader, you should say everybody together. The fact that the rhetoric has changed and the actions follow the rhetoric is really a clear indication to us of how that old regime is dissolving before our very eyes. It requires from us an adjustment because we're used to referencing back to the US for standards, for leadership, for new thinking.
I'd like to hear your view on the worst case scenario that in the next 3 to 5 years, how things could morph into, and what are the signposts going towards your worst case scenario view?
I think the greatest uncertainty is the global financial situation. The quarrel between Treasury and the Fed in the US suggests to me a certain fear that the US economy is not doing that well in substance. Superficially, it appears to be doing well. But many Americans are living hand to mouth, month by month, paycheck to paycheck. The wealthy are unbelievably wealthy. So they spur certain kinds of consumption. They cause certain asset prices to rise. But the tensions in society are building up. And it's not just in the US. I think it's everywhere in the world. It's caused partly by excess liquidity. It's also caused by technological change, which has altered the terms of trade in the division of labor among human beings. So if you have access to capital, you're born into a family with networks, you're well educated, you have access to investors. So you do well. But if you don't have that network, and you never had education, and you can't speak languages, and you're a place with poor infrastructure, however clever you are, you're stuck. And if enough people are stuck, they become angry when they see what's happening around them. So many governments are forced to turn leftwards in terms of economic policy. But the old left thinking of ideological control, that's also breaking up. So countries are politically moving rightwards, but economically moving leftwards. And it's creating a lot of political confusion and fragmentation in country after country. So this is the challenge we're facing. If there is another global financial crisis, and the time is right, because the last was in 2008, so already 17 years, is due. This time around, when there's a global financial crisis, it's always caused by debt. This time the debt is much greater than 2008. And there's no G20. And the G7 will not be able to get the word out of it. Then we may end up getting into a big financial hole. And we all know that when you have a big financial hole, politics will turn ugly everywhere in the world.